Oh my God.
Those emotions, they were put on hold by time, by career.
Chapter 18, text 18. Janaam Jayam Par E Jananta Tri Vidha Karma Kodana Karma Karteti Tri Vidha Karma Sangraha. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors which motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer comprise the threefold basis of action. There are three kinds of impetus for daily work: knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower. The instrument of work, the work itself, and the worker are called the constituents of work. Any work done by any human has these elements. Before one acts, there is some impetus, which is called inspiration. Any solution arrived at before work is actualized in the subtle form of work. Then work takes the form of action. First, one has to undergo the psychological process of thinking, feeling, and willing, and that is called impetuous. Actually, the faith to perform acts is called knowledge. The inspiration to work is the same as it comes from the scripture or from the instruction of the spiritual master. When the inspiration is there and the worker is there, then actual activity takes place by the help of the senses. The mind is the center of all senses and the object of work itself. These are the different phases of work as described, in the Bhagavad Gita. The sum total of all activities is called accumulation of work. Text 19. Janamam karman ka kata ka trihadiva guna bihadahata prokayate yuma sanki ame yavaka krunu tani api. In accordance with three modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge, action, and performers of action. Listen as I describe them. In the 14th chapter, the three divisions of the modes of material nature were elaborately described. In that chapter, it was said that the mode of goodness is illuminating, the mode of passion, materialistic, and the mode of ignorance, conducive to laziness and indolence. All the modes of material nature are binding. They are not sources of liberation. Even in the mode of goodness, one is conditioned. In the 17th chapter, the different types of worship by different types of men is in different modes of material nature were described. In this verse, the Lord wishes to speak about the different types of knowledge workers and work itself according to the three material modes. Text 20. Sarva bhutasyu yam nam ekam bhavan ayayam sate avi bhaktam vidhabketsu tam jayam vidi satkikam. The knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all existences Undivided in the divided is the knowledge in the mode of goodness. As a person who sees one spirit in every living being, whether a demigod, human being, animal, beast, aquatic, or plant, possesses knowledge in the mode of goodness. In all living entities, one spirit soul is there. Although they have different bodies in terms of their previous work, as described in the seventh chapter, the manifestation of the living force in everybody is due to the supreme nature of the Supreme Lord. Thus, to see that one superior nature, the living force in everybody, is to see in the mode of goodness. That living energy is imperishable, although the bodies are perishable. The difference is perceived in terms of the body because there are many forms of material existence in conditional life. Therefore, they appear to be divided. Such impersonal knowledge finally leads to self-realization. Text 21. Pritatanvina tu yamam nama bhavan prityag vidam veti sarvesa putesa janamam vidi raja asam. That knowledge by which the different type of living entity is seen to be dwelling in different bodies is the knowledge in the mode of passion. The concept that the material body is the living entity and that with the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed is called knowledge in the mode of passion. According to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no separate soul which manifests consciousness. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond this body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary, or else there are no individual souls, but there is all-pervading soul, which is full of knowledge, and this body is a manifestation of temporary ignorance. Or beyond this body, there is no special individual or supreme soul. All such conceptions are considered products of the mode of passion. Text 22. Yat tu Krishtanam yad ika siman karhe satam ahit yukam atarvata vad alpan ka tat tamasam yudatrim. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all without knowledge of truth, and which is very meager, is said to be the mode of darkness. The knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance, because every living entity in conditional life is born in the mode of ignorance. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities of scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of directions of scripture. For him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection to the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as the product of the mode of darkness. In other words, knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness, and knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is the product and mode of passion, and knowledge concerned with only keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Text 23. Ni atam sagam rahitam arjar raja divasata kritam pa apalala pri pusana karman yat tat sat gigan yugate. As for the actions, the action in accordance with duty, which is performed without attachment, without love or hate, by one who has renounced fruitive results, is called the action in the mode of goodness. Regular occupational duties, as described in the scriptures in terms of different orders and divisions of society, perform without attachment or proprietary rights, and therefore without any love or hatred, and it performed in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme, without self satisfaction or self gratification, are called actions in the mode of goodness. Text 24. Yat tu kam petsuna karman sa kam karina ya punam krityate ba yu lai asamam tad raja asam yu tad ritam, but action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires, and which is enacted from the sense of false ego, is called action in the mode of passion. Text 25. Abham bamham kayasam hisam akipkasa ka par rusam muhad aburate karma yat tat tasaman yukate. And the action performed in ignorance and delusion without consideration of future bondage and consequences, which inflicts injury and is impracticable, is said to be the action in the mode of ignorance. One has to give account of one's actions to the state or to the agents of the Supreme Lord, called the Yamatutas. Irresponsible work is distraction because it destroys the regulative principles of spiritual injunction. It is often based on violence and is distressing to other living entities. Such irresponsible work is carried out in the light of one's personal experience. This is called illusion. And all such illusionary work is the product of the mode of ignorance. Text 26. Mukta Sango Maham Badi Dirti Yutsatha Samavita Siddhai Ashu Hayar Ni Vikara Karta Sadvika Yukati. The worker who is free from all material attachments and false ego, who is enthusiastic and resolute, and who is indifferent to success or failure, is a worker in the mode of goodness. A person in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental to the material modes of his nature. He has no expectations for the results of work entrusted to him because he is above false ego and pride. Still, he is always enthusiastic till the completion of such work. He does not worry about distress undertaken. He is always enthusiastic. He does not care for success or failure. He is equal both in distress and happiness. Such a worker is situated in the mode of goodness. Text 27. Raji Karman Palala Prepsor Lubahu Himsat Maku Suchi Harsa Koban Bita Karta Raj Asa Parkritita. But that worker who is attached to the fruits of his labor and who is passionately wants to enjoy them, who is greedy, envious, and impure, and moved by happiness and distress, is the worker in the mode of passion. A person is too much attached to a certain kind of work or to the result because he has too much attachment for materialism or hearth and home, wife and children. Such a person has no desire for higher elevation. He is simply concerned with making his world all material comfortable as possible. He is generally very greedy, and he thinks that anything obtained by him is permanent and never lost. Such a person is envious of others and prepared to do anything wrong for sense gratification. Therefore, such a person is unclean, and he does not care whether his earning is pure or impure. He is very happy if his work is successful and very much distressed when his work is not successful. Such is a man in the mode of passion. Stop. That's text 28.
Okay.
How many are there, by the way?
This chapter has a lot of slokas.
Yeah, it goes
Yeah.
to like 80.
Oh, wow.
Did we lose Amanda?
I think so.
Apparently.
If I'm honest, I feel like my brain, if it was a sponge, is completely soaked this week. And I feel like this chapter is not absorbing, and I'm just power through. It's one chapter left, but I really feel like when we're reading, I'm like, it's like, I feel like I'm swimming in muddy water.
And this chapter has a lot, so it's even muddier because of the heavy content in this.
Yeah, it's like acting as a summary, but I feel like it's also sneaking in some stuff. And I really was looking forward to chapter 18, but I don't know how to like wring out my brain to start anew. So I feel like I'm gonna have to reread it myself at some point, just chapter 18. But yeah, that's where I am.
Am I reading too fast? I could go slow.
No, it's not. It was when I was reading too. It's just my brain this week. I think I'm just over the Gita. Like we're so close to the end, like when you're running and you're like, I just want to be done.
Yeah.
I'm like, just power through. But I'm also trying to just enjoy it and be there. And I guess like when they were I'm like, it is what it is. Like right now, I'm like, this is where I am. And I'm just going to acknowledge it. I'm not going to attach myself to it.
I'm also having problems soaking it in.
When we were reading the Hatha Pradipika, which is also pretty damn long.
Yeah.
I was feeling that way too. Like, and I thought, okay, just sort out the wheat from the chaff, the stuff that really resonates with you, and don't even listen to the other stuff because it's not going to sink in anyway. So,
yeah.
And that was only marginally successful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're right. You get to the end of these things and a part of it is, look, there's light at the end of the tunnel. But then you're right. I think they have tossed either new stuff or another way of understanding the old stuff on. And it's definitely there. You're right about that. That's for damn sure.
Some of it is very repetitive though.
Yeah, like the rest of the book. There's so much of this that said, how many ways can we say this? Well, let's try.
But that's like I guess that's what I meant. It's not like new material. It's just a new way of saying it, but it's the same thing. And it's like, okay, I got it. And I'm like, but it is still very interesting to me because I think the way they're describing it now, either I've gotten to the point where I'm understanding it, or the way they're saying it is making more sense to me.
It does feel like another layer down there somewhere.
Yeah. I was reading. I'm just trying to. Oh yeah, so I'm reading this book called The Undocumented Americans. Talk about judging a book from its cover. As an avid reader, you think I wouldn't do this, but I do. So like, I never would have picked this book. It looks like too textbooky. It looks just like really scary. I don't know, like something about but then I was taking a course and they recommended this book and I was reading about it and I'm loving it. So stop judging books by its cover, Pam. But anyway, the author is Ecuadorian, and she was the first undocumented immigrant to graduate from Harvard. Or one of the first, it says. So she wrote this book when they kept wanting her to write a book, and she kept saying no because they were going to change it on her, like the publishing world. But when Trump got elected, she was like, I have to write this book and we're doing it my way. And so she wrote this book. And just one sentence. she's talking about meeting with a Colombian, I think it's a Colombian woman who's also undocumented, and she's trying to get stories out of people. And they're walking through a city, I think in New York, like one of the New York, maybe in Queens. I think they're in Queens. And she says, women roast corn and kebabs on makeshift grills on every corner, and cumbia blasts from the record store that still sells CDs. This was my favorite sentence. My senses feel rushed. I immediately thought about to the Gita. Like, we've experienced this in the city all the time, like that idea of like there's food smell everywhere, there's sound smell everywhere, we're hearing so much, we're smelling so much. She was talking about not being able to see very far. Like this happens all the time in the city. Like you can't really see past the block because of all the people and stuff. But I love that idea of my senses feel rushed. That's that type of like ajita that we experience is like what the Gita is saying is like that mode of like passion. And I think that's like one of the big lessons I got out of this book is like, stop letting my senses guide me through life and instead acknowledge the senses. But I even love in the morning when, like, as much as I'm like, can we just finish this book already? Like, we don't need, like, can we just stop playing the song? But I'm like, the song is such an important part of this because it allows us to pause and set ourselves up. And it's 40 seconds. It's not that long. And once I hear it, I calm myself down. It's an immediately, like Ram Dass says, like, be here now moment. So I think that ritual is, I think building these rituals in our life is important. Like finding something to pause and calm you down before you got to go do the hard things. Yeah.
I agree about the song. And for me, what's annoying about the song is that, you know, laptop speakers are not great speakers, to say nothing of how it's being transmitted through Lord knows how many gateways. And so the sound really sucks. It's awful. But in my head, I can hear her singing and chanting it through better speakers or something.
Yeah.
And you're right, it is a focusing thing. Sometimes for meditation, I put her on, and I put that on. I just have a sort of a Spotify endless loop of her doing that.
Yeah, that's smart.
I also found something. It's Buddhist monks chanting, and that has been. I'll send you guys the name, and if you have Spotify, I'll send it right after this. It is so peaceful. And if you have Spotify, you can make a playlist of just one chant going through 5 times, for example, so that you get your 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
With that. And it's sometimes it's very helpful. If I'm outside, I don't like it so much because I like to hear the birds, but I'm inside today, and you know, so maybe I'll do that. Anyway, and that's a part of the slowing down and not letting your senses rush you through life and just sort of stepping back and what you were just talking about, Pam.
Yeah. And then doing things with non-attachment too. Although there has to be like, I mean, there has to be some sort of goals and dreams. Like I'm not saying I'd ever want to become that, like so non-attached. It's like too neutral for me. I need a little wiggle room. I need a little wiggle room for success and failure.
Somebody's described detachment really in a good way. I'm looking for my notes. I don't know where they are. It's gotta, but yeah, it's gotta be a hybrid of detachment. Doesn't mean that you are excused from not trying your best. I think you still try your best. You're just not attached with the end results, and your ego isn't so tied up with the end results that you're crushed if it sucks, and you're like godlike if it worked out well. Yeah.
And instead at the end you say, well, I did that, that's done, what's next?
Yeah.
Or maybe take a break, then what's next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree, there's got to be something there.
I'm having a hard week because I've been having a hard month, but it's come to a head because I'm trying to do something, and people at first were like, "Oh, okay, that's nice," and they're being pleasant about it. But then when they realize that they're not going to change my mind about what I want to do, now they're starting to get nasty. And I keep trying to keep them like not mad at me and like keep away the negative energy, and then they start sucking me into their negative energy, and then I start saying things that I don't want to say.
Yeah.
So I had this happen yesterday at the end of the day, the end of the workday, and I was like really upset for like like I could feel the blood boiling in me for like an hour. And then I managed to calm down, but I now have to go back and do this discussion. Like they're like, "We want to continue this discussion." I'm like, "It's not going to change my mind, but okay. Like I'll continue this discussion with you." And they're trying to like make me do things differently, and it's not good. But I have no way of not making them upset, and that's what makes me upset. It's like I'm going to end in bad terms no matter what I do. Like I'm trying to give you guys all this information because I'm trying to be transparent. I'm trying to tell you what my real goals are because I don't want to be deceiving. But in reality, if I would have just been deceiving, it would have been easier for me and I wouldn't have had to go through all this trouble. But I have to like find a chant for like taking away negative energy, and then I have to, when they're like attacking me, I have to just step back and not try to attack back. It's really hard.
Yeah, setting those boundaries is really hard.
It's really
for
hard.
yourself and for setting boundaries for yourself and for other people.
That like raises two things. As soon as you said I have to find a chant, I thought of Soham.
Yeah.
Because So is like bringing in all this energy from the outside, and Hum is, your individual stuff, good and bad, pouring back out. And I just, it's one of those things that works for me. And so I tell people about it, but like Pam, it's sort of like, there it is, take it or leave it, it works for me,
Yeah.
But that to me is like part of what you're talking about. The other thing is that, what does the Gita say about what we would call lies of omission? So suppose you didn't reveal this stuff to the folks, and suppose it had, by not revealing, it didn't affect the outcome. The outcome that you were seeking will still be the same.
Mm-hmm.
They'll still get some of what they want, but it'll be done differently than the way that they wanted it. What does the Gita say about that? It's not laying your soul on the table. On the other hand, the outcome is the same.
Yeah, what does the Gita say about that?
Because that would cause you a lot less anjana,
Yeah.
And I don't know. And that's something we've just read through this enormous tome. And I can't remember. It could have gone in one ear or out the other, but I can't remember what the Gita says about lying.
I think what comes up is like that idea we spoke about yesterday. Well, I don't know specifically lying, but the idea behind it is like Domenica has her job that she needs to do.
Yeah.
Whether it's not her work job, but just like her, and if she doesn't follow that, like they say it's better to do what's your job, even if she's going to have all these headaches, than to do someone else's job and do it perfectly.
Yep.
She's meant to have all these obstacles, and then it's still like she's being Arjuna right now, and this is the battle she's fighting.
Exactly.
So you're saying that Domenica, a part of Domenica's job is trying to help these people understand why things should go a certain way.
I don't know what Domenica's job is, but if she feels
I don't either, but I meant job just in general.
No, I meant like, I don't know if it's her job to explain to these people. That's on her to sit and meditate on. If it was me, I don't feel like I owe anyone anything. So I would be like, bye. But Dominica has to figure that out for herself.
I think I need some of Pam in me. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Me
you want to
too.
go that road? Whatever, you know.
Yeah. And like, I told you guys I'm reading Brene Brown's book, and like she studies shame and vulnerability and fear. And she talks about these really hard conversations, and like she gives talks a lot, and she was getting feedback or something from somebody, and somebody was criticizing her blog, and she got emotional about it. And she went to reply to this woman's email, and she got very like attackful back. She wrote 3 different like attack emails. She didn't send any of them. And then she called someone in like her trust circle. And she talks a lot about like having just like this one person in your back pocket. Maybe it's like a list of 5 names, and it might change for each scenario. And just having like a real honest conversation with this person. And I think she called her sister, and her sister was like, maybe you just need to like feel hurt and vulnerable and cry about it. And
Yeah.
maybe that's what so maybe Dominica, maybe today, like let yourself just release it instead of holding it in, and give yourself like 10 minutes before you walk into that conversation, because otherwise it's gonna happen.
Yeah. I'm
And
going to get upset in the conversation.
yeah, so you might as well just get it over with now by yourself, so you can walk into that meeting and be like, look, this is what's going on. Like,
Yeah. And it's not going to change.
yeah,
Anything you
and
say
it's
or
not
do
going to
is
change,
not
and
gonna-
you're crossing boundaries by upsetting me. And yeah, that's when we can start doing that in life. I think that's really living our truth.
It is. I want to live what I believe is correct. And this is the way I believe it's correct. And whether they're going to piggyback on that or not, it's up to them. And I don't care.
Yeah,
And that's what's making them angry, because they can't manipulate me.
yeah, but they got their own work to do.
Right.
I don't think we have time today, but I wanted to ask you, Dominica, from your professional perspective, so maybe we can talk about it some other time,
Sure.
how it feels to read about that collapsing building in Florida.
My whole family has been asking me about it. And I was like, I haven't even looked at the article yet.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. That's such a good question, Sue.
Well, I do. Remember there was a bridge, like a pedestrian bridge collapse, I think in also Florida. I do know exactly what went wrong there. It was, so when you go to build something, you have a set of design drawings that the contractor's to follow, and it usually has most of what he needs to do, but it sometimes leaves some data out, and it's to be addressed in what we call shop drawings. So the contractor will send you, the way he's going to build it, his proposed plans, his actual real products. Sometimes you can't tell them the products, you just say something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And in those shop drawings, it was the connections, there were connections missed, and the connections are the best, the biggest part of, we always say, like, you have one weak connection, your structure is gone. And that's what happened in that. But I haven't read this other one. I haven't read into the details and looked into it yet, but I suspect that the concrete was bad, because, and that they see what happens with concrete was, they always warned us in school, is it can have a quick failure if you don't design the rebar correctly. Because if the rebar, the steel in it is designed correctly, it's supposed to show you signs that it's going to fail, like sagging and stuff, so you know what's coming. But if it's not designed correctly, you can have it, like if it has too much rebar or too little rebar, there's a sweet spot. It can collapse quickly. And then if the concrete composition itself, which is really, it's actually really hard to manage, because there's always these new admixtures going on. And then we usually have a controlled inspector on site testing all the concrete, but sometimes it's just really hard to manage. And I've been on jobs where we've gotten test results back and we're like, you have to take this concrete out, it's not good. And like, that's the last thing the contractor wants to hear.
Yeah.
But I suspect from the pictures I saw that the rebar wasn't designed correctly, but I haven't read all the details yet.
I was in Manhattan facing the World Trade Center when both the buildings collapsed. And from what I could see, because pretty soon the smoke and the debris floated up and you could see nothing but smoke and debris in your face.
Yeah.
But it pancaked, it just went.
Yeah.
And I watched the short video of this building, same thing, just went. And of course it's the middle of the night. And the first thing you think about are the 170 people who were in there, 151 people. And just, but anyway, so sometime I'd like to hear more about that, because I used to be the program person who used to work with contractors and architects to design something that was functional for us, running a program.
Yeah.
But and so I used to hear a lot of this stuff, and to me, it was another example of how the world is so interrelated. You cannot ignore this stuff, because it is the basis of what you're going to do.
Oh yeah.
You don't have a program without a successful building, and you don't have a successful building unless you pay attention to what's going on in program and what's needed for program. So anyway.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah.
It's like a metaphor for our own life. Like if you don't build a strong foundation structure for your own life, but also maintain it, our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, it's going to collapse. Like,
yeah, amen.
And from what I understand with that building is it did, I don't know what, but there were signs of something, and they decided like, oh, we're not going to fix it in 2018. So
some of this, what I saw pictures of didn't look like something I would be alarmed of. So that's what makes me want to dig in. My brother was showing me some pictures and I was like, that wouldn't alarm me. Yeah. So I'm interested to look into the details.
Well, apparently,
if you read the guy's report, the inspector's report, they published part of it.
Yeah.
He was alarmed. I think the pictures they showed are the kind of thing that a layperson would say, oh my God. But you who knows how a building is put together might, you wouldn't be alarmed. But some of what he wrote was pretty frightening. And a lot of it had to do with the flooding that was eating away at the base.
Oh, that could definitely do it. Oh yeah, forget it.
Especially given, depending on the composition of the concrete.
Yeah, yeah, because all loads translate to the base. So if your base is not good, forget it.
So that's your assignment for the weekend. You got to read.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my whole family's been asking me, so I got to look into. I'm like, guys, I didn't even read about this yet. But when something like that happens in the industry, at some point, one of the organizations usually takes a deep dive, and then we have presentations and stuff. So I'm sure we're going to learn more and uncover more.
It sounds like it's already like in your industry shifting. Like there's going to be major protocol changes, like that inspection changes.
Yeah. I
mean, this happens too in every industry. Like when companies like Enron fall, then all these regulations start coming in, so I think it'll be a more regulated process for you guys, like reevaluating the whole coastal property.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Miami's sinking, isn't it?
What?
Like Miami is sinking, isn't it?
Well, Miami is getting progressively flooded. I mean, instead of waking up twice a year with the streets having an inch of water, now it's like, 3 times every 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, and that has to do with the fact that they're on limestone, which is like a sponge. So the limestone brings in the water. And it's also becomes very chalky over time. So yeah, I don't know what all their foundations look like, but I imagine that it's not going to go well. I was having a conversation with somebody from Florida, and because in New York, the way they're stopping the water is they go down to bedrock, and then they build up something like a tub, and then they have pumps behind it, and that's what they're designing in the lower Manhattan. This kind of like going to be a huge shield, which I think is really ugly. But anyway, they're trying to patch it with park and make it look beautiful. But yeah, Miami has most of Florida has really difficult because of that limestone. They don't have a similar situation. We're on granite, which doesn't absorb the water.
So crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's one of those things, like, until it happens, you're like, I never in life would have thought about that. And now I'm like paranoid, and it's, like, consuming my brain. And like, yeah,
I've seen so many documentaries about this though, like with global warming in Miami in particular. They're always like, Miami's gonna be underwater. And I was just thinking, like, what's gonna collapse first,
No, that was me living in ignorance. Like, oh, like just trusting other people and build buildings.
Well, I think we're always supposed to be nomadic, but we've kind of like tried to make things our long-term location, right? And that kind of goes back to the Gita with the material.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
we're not too malleable anymore.
Right.
All right. Well, Domenica, I'll send you extra strength and love today.
Thanks.
Your hard things.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
I don't think I don't think what the Gita is telling us though is that when we're on our path that life is easy. I think it's just giving us the tools, because life is hard. Even when you're on your path, it's still hard.
Yes. Agree 100%.
I don't think like there's, and I think, stick to what you believe and don't give up. Too many people give up because it gets hard, or they just conform to people pleasing, and then they live someone else's dream for them. That's why everyone's so unhappy.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, it's 8:20, so we'll do some breath work. We'll meditate. If you have to leave early, of course, leave when you need to.
All right. Have a nice day, everyone.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye, Amanda. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
So we'll sit up nice and tall. Take a few breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. Sometimes I feel like I rush breath, but if you feel like you need to do more breath or less breath, you do you. You can set your own timer. We'll bring our right hand to the nose, close the right nostril with the left, close the right nostril with the right thumb, and out through the left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. Inhale left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. Inhale left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. 2 more rounds on your own breath, adding your locks and retention if it's part of your practice. If you haven't already and you want to exhale at your left side, I'm setting the timer. You just join us when you're ready. Bringing hands to heart center. Namaste.
Namaste, Pam.